2009. What a fantastic year in gaming. Modern Warfare 2, Demon's Souls, Borderlands, Halo 3 ODST, Infamous, Saints Row 2, Mirror's Edge, Skate 2, Peggle, Resident Evil 5. We were indeed feasting. There is, however, one game that you didn't play in 2009. Unless you did play it, then that line that I just said is kind of awkward. Enter MadWorld.
Oh my god!
Get him! Get him! Get him!
Woo! That kind of fucking hurts.
Yes!
Only the most seasoned hardcore of gamers were playing MadWorld in 2009 on their Nintendo Wii system. MadWorld is certainly a special case. You could call it the runt of the Nintendo Wii litter. The Wii launched in 2006 and saw to great success, almost harnessing the power of which the PlayStation 2 managed to grasp that of your uncle or your grandma, mainly because they wanted a DVD player and that was the cheaper option at the time, but still, the Nintendo Wii entered into households that weren't just specific to that of nerds. Now, up until the cool kid Switch hit the block, the Nintendo Wii was Nintendo's best-selling home system, selling just over 100 million units. The reason for this, other than the
Cutting-edge motion technology that the Wii focused on.
The Wii was marketed as a family system, a video game console where the entire family could be involved. Whether it be Grandma Betty bowling flames down that bowling alley, Uncle Jerry getting involved in Wii Sport tennis, trying to relive his prime days of when he was 16 and was a grand champion ace shot, this video game system had a little something for everyone. Unless you were trying to look for hardcore gore, violence, sexual references, big boy words like crap or poopy stinky bottom, there was a bit of an outcry to bring mature rated games to the family loving system. If you were an early 2000s edgelord, then you were more so looking towards purchasing a PlayStation or Xbox. That's where you're gonna find all your filth, you filthy, dirty, sweaty looking ape. There were only ever a handful of mature rated games that made its way to the Wii, the most notable of which is, of course, Resident Evil 4. But MadWorld hit the shelves in 2009. It's special for a number of reasons, but I think the main one is that this is Platinum Games' very first video game. Of course, later on in 2009, Platinum Games would go ahead and release Bayonetta, which ultimately put them on the Video Game Developer Cool Kid list, quickly becoming their most successful franchise of all time. A lot of people indeed think that Bayonetta is Platinum Games' very first outing into the industry, but no, it is actually MadWorld. And I think possibly due to Bayonetta's success, MadWorld was a little bit overshadowed, but I think the main problem here is it was put on perhaps maybe the wrong console. Something like MadWorld probably would have performed a lot better if it had been released on either Xbox or PlayStation. Though I'm glad it didn't, because this means that I can use a Nintendo dildo stick to throw a street sign down someone's throat, cut someone clean in half, quench someone's thirst, help someone out with their constipation issues, kiss someone so hard their head explodes. That special attack that Hulk used in the Avengers against Loki, very effective. Quite literally throw someone into a deep fryer and turn them into a tempura delicacy. Now that I'm saying like all of this garbage out loud, this makes me really concerned for my own mental well-being. The fact that I enjoyed all of this so much. Do I have a problem? MadWorld was at least one answer to the Wii's issue of not having enough mature rated games. But see, awkward, this game didn't really sell too well, selling a total of 780,000 copies worldwide, with only 20,000 copies being sold in Japan alone. Though to be fair, this is Platinum Games' very first game, and 780k for your very first video game outing is not a bad feat. Keeping in mind again, this is before Platinum Games made a name for themselves. And while yes, there were a portion of Wii gamers that wanted mature rated games, can we really say that that's the majority of the Wii community back then? Nintendo most certainly didn't build their reputation based on releasing violent, explicit, and graphic video games, so they continued to pretty much do what they did best. And also everyone was playing Dead Rising Chop Till You Drop around this time. It released a month beforehand. Okay, I'm lying. I don't actually know if this is a fact or not. But I mean, come on, it's Dead Rising 1 with a Nintendo dildo stick. I've always been curious about MadWorld, mainly because it is Platinum Games' very first video game before the Bayonetta days. Before Bayonetta came along, kicked it straight in the dick and said, hey, thanks for warming the seat for me. I always used to stumble across this on the store shelf whenever I go to hire my video games every single Friday back when I was a goblin child. Being very intrigued by the hardcore cover art that it sported, along with the gameplay preview images on the back, noticing that the gameplay for some reason is in black and white. Of course, I didn't own a Nintendo Wii back when I was still shitting myself. No, during those 2009 days, I only played the most hardcore games like BioShock, Modern Warfare, Halo 3, dude. However, recently I decided to finally indulge in my 15-year-long curiosity about MadWorld and play the game for myself. In MadWorld, you fill the boots of bona fide badass and 24/7 cigarette smoker, Jack. Now that I think about it, what is with this trend in video games and having the bona fide badass main character named Jack? He makes his way to Varagon City, a place that's been taken over by the organizers. These guys have cut off all communication as well as any transport in or out of the city, and the most important part, they've released a deadly virus. Here's the catch though, anyone that wants the vaccine must kill another person. Through this absolutely terrible situation of a purge movie, the organizers jump at this opportunity to fully monetize the situation and turn it into a game show known as Deathwatch. Think Ratchet Deadlock's Dread Zone, with the exception of no guns and lots of raspberry syrup. Jack decides to enter into the games himself to work his way up the Deathwatch ladder. There's a total of 13 figures of importance, which are the bosses throughout the game, which all have different Deathwatch rankings. In order for you to climb up the Deathwatch ladder, you need to take down all 13 of these bad boys to eventually be the reigning champion. Again, this is just a violent version of Ratchet Deadlocked. Wait a minute, you didn't think Jack's just here to kill people, right? He's not, like, completely crazy. Okay, yeah, maybe he's like a little bit crazy. I don't think this is normal behavior, but still, he's here for an intention of his own. As you punch, slice, impale, break, and snap your way up the ladder of Deathwatch, the organizers become increasingly concerned that Jack might not be here for the correct intentions, and rather for an objective of his own. They later on find out that, wait a minute, boss. Yeah, this guy here, he was a participant in one of the previous Deathwatches. Not just that, but he's like an ex-Marine, he was a police officer, he was a special rogue agent. This guy knows what he's doing. They do talk about the option of potentially killing Jack off, just in case he's here to take care of the organizers. The problem here is Jack is generating so many Twitch donations because the audience absolutely loves him. Most of the revenue stream of Deathwatch are all bets placed on Jack. He was like one of those e-girls who got involved in the bathtub stream phase. Jack eventually finds out that there's a bunch of rich and wealthy people that are hiding out in the city placing bets on the Deathwatch game. In other words, the rich and wealthy were in on what the organizers were planning for Varagon City, as they would directly pump revenue into the Deathwatch game via bets. And then Marcus Phoenix was all like, nah, f that, let's eat the rich!
Here, your reward.
I get it. You people are enjoying this. You weren't caught up in some crisis. This is all part of your opening ceremony.
I have absolutely no idea what you're talking about.
Hey, bro, come on now,
Guess the
dog.
house doesn't always win. I'm out of here.
What about the girl?
You're right. Should have probably killed the bitch.
Come on, man.
Hell no, man. What the fuck, man?
Oh yeah, I should probably mention that Platinum Games are kind of ruthless in this game.
You know, I like a gal who sucks as much as the next guy, but this blood-hungry bitch can give a hickey that'll put you in the morgue.
What? What did... What?
So this is the strip, huh? Do I have time for a lap dance?
Perv.
Yo, what the hell is happening here? And, hey, what the fuck?
Difference. Nice move, Jack. Yeah, I've never seen a guy get a chick's clothes off so fast.
Okay,
Jack
all right.
Ryan, I think I-
Whoa!
he could at least-
Whoa, what are you doing? What? What? Platinum? What? So the commentators of this game do not hold back. You are constantly hearing the voices of the Deathwatch commentators commentating on Jack's performance and everything that's going on. Everything you do in combat, they will react towards. Some of the stuff that these guys say is just completely off the rails. Like, couldn't believe that the writers actually okayed this and decided to put it in the game kind of levels of like, wow, they really went there. So while there is some pretty explicit stuff that is said from these two and a little bit of cringe in the mix, for the most part this definitely adds for some prime entertainment as you make your way through Deathwatch. Again, very similar to Ratchet Deadlock with Dallas and Juanita. Oh yeah, and I should mention that one of the voice actors for the commentators is John DiMaggio, who is the voice actor of Bender, as well as Jake the dog from Adventure Time. So it was this weird mix of having like Bender and Jake the dog screaming absurdities while I was doing absolutely brutal acts of human indecency. It was fantastic.
Jack is taking that ball on the chin like, who takes balls on their chin? My ex-wife?
Bruh.
I gotta meet this woman. Great analogy. What's an analogy? It's like anal with an allergy. Not all problems can be solved by sticking things in them. That's what I told the pizza delivery guy when I caught him sticking it to my wife. That chainsaw's not cutting it. Jack's gotta go barehanded against the Baron. Yeah, it's always better bareback. I said barehanded, you idiot. No wonder your crotch smells like a compost heap. No wonder your nose is in my crotch.
Yeah, I promise you, this is a real video game. In the end, Jack wins a Golden Globe, becomes the reigning champion, and finds out about the truth behind Deathwatch. So yeah, it turns out one of the doctors that you come across earlier on in the game, who, from the get-go, Jack is suspicious of, because it's like, how are you still alive? It's only like lunatics, people with severe mental issues, and borderline psychos that are still eating. Well, it was actually a pharmaceutical company that designed the virus, released it into Vatican City, and created the entire idea of the game in order to create money because they were going broke due to the last presidential election. The big grand plan here was to further televise the footage of Deathwatch to the entire country to show everyone, hey, this is exactly what the virus does. It makes people kill each other. You might want to get our vaccine so that Springvale Pharmaceuticals can make a lot of money and get out of bankruptcy. The entire plot of this game, no joke, sounds like a COVID conspiracy theory. The doctor here, Leo, is the son of the big boss of Springvale Pharmaceuticals and has been working on his behalf to ensure that Deathwatch works according to plan. In the end, Jack throws him off the tower and ends the game off with one badass line.
I don't help people. I kill them.
After which, Jack leaves Vatican City and the credits roll. And the credit sequence of this game, my lord, probably the best credit sequence I have seen in a video game, period.
So many nerds, so little time. I think my ex-wife slept with all these guys. I remember that night. Hey, that guy was in my How to Draw for Slow Learners class. The lead animator is the lower intestine of the animation world. Yep, cause he's full of shit. They only had one guy as the blood effects designer? God, he must have been working 24/7.
The story of this game is an interesting one. I think the hook of wanting to know exactly why Jack is in Vatican City and the truth behind Vatican City and Deathwatch in itself is enough to keep the player engaged to find out exactly what happens in the end. The story isn't anything special by any means, and certainly Platinum Games have cooked up way better chicken casseroles going forward, but it's definitely a decent enough premise to base an entire game around a death TV show. It should already be apparent, but this game's main theme is violence. That's the whole shtick of the entire game, is like, yeah, there's gonna be a lot of hurting people. So prepare yourself for that. In fact, Platinum Games actually used Manhunt 2, the infamous Rockstar game that was notorious for over-the-top violence at the time, that it was so bad that it got banned in 6 countries. This is one of the most banned games of all time. MadWorld did end up getting banned in one country, being Germany, and there was even a little bit of controversy surrounding the game at the time of its release from the National Institute on Media and the Family, an American organization whose goal is to monitor media content that could be harmful to children. They made a statement about MadWorld expressing their disappointment in Nintendo, saying, "In the past, the Wii has successfully sold itself as being the gaming console for the entire family and a way to bring family game nights back into people's living rooms. Unfortunately, Nintendo opened its doors to the violent video game genre." They pulled the Stone Age opinion of, "The concern is that kids will not feel the same empathy or sympathy that someone who doesn't play a lot of video games. Also, since a lot of the typical violent video games has to do with seeking and destroying, this could become a method of contact for a child." This organization was shut down in the same year. Rest in pepperonis. However, even though MadWorld is most certainly a beat 'em to a pulp video game, because of its incredibly unique art style and visual aesthetic, the game comes across as more so over-the-top, heavily exaggerated violence to a point where it's almost comical. MadWorld undeniably stands out in a vast ocean of video games due to its Sin City black and white graphics. Sin City was the inspiration point for the visuals of this game, along with Western comics. So much of the violence that you come across in this game is absolutely cartoonish, to the point where there's even comic captions that appear on screen as you're engaging in combat. There are only two things that are in color in this game, and that is the comic captions and the blood. And I think this is kind of ingenious. Like, if you want to make an over-the-top violent video game, sure, the animations and all the weird kind of executions are going to matter, but it's really the blood that you want to stand out. And what better way to make the blood stand out than for it to be like the only piece of color you see for the entirety of the game. MadWorld is a beat-em-up game. It's not the typical Platinum Games hack and slash with in-depth, intricate combos. The game certainly has the Platinum Games action feel to it, but it's certainly very simplistic. You've got a light attack jibby-jab combo with the A button, you've got a Popeye uppercut by swinging the Wiimote upwards, a sweeping punch by swinging the Wiimote to the side, a jump slam attack, a dodge by shaking the nunchuck, and you can also grab onto enemies by holding down A and throw them by shaking the Wiimote. What makes Jack super edgy though is he's got a chainsaw strapped to his arm. Jack and Marcus Phoenix from Gears of War would be very good friends. By holding down B, you activate your chainsaw and you can swing the Wiimote to your heart's content to slice and dice and carve up a mean dish. That's a Ratchet & Clank reference, by the way. The game is segmented into multiple different stages, and the idea of the game is to accumulate enough points to then activate the boss match. All of the mindless killing that you'll be doing will accumulate you points. The game, though, wants you to get creative with how you take out your foe. Each level is a small arena that is set up with a plethora of different traps and objects to use against your enemies. However, we don't want the folks back home that are tuning into the TV show to get too bored with the way that Jack is putting on his performance. So pulling off a kill where you shove a street sign through someone and then put a barrel over the top of them and then finally finish them off will yield you the most points possible. Platinum Games are literally asking the player, we want you to keep the person alive for as long as possible, but inflict the most pain possible in order for you to get the most amount of points out of this situation. Yeah, it's a little bit edgy. If you inflict enough damage to an enemy without finishing them off, you'll eventually get an execution prompt. There are a ton of these throughout the game, they're all unique, and of course quite brutal. These can also be different depending on what weapon you're currently using. As you accumulate points in each level, eventually a weapon dispenser will activate. There's quite a few different weapons throughout this game, and they all have their own unique uses. My personal favorite was most certainly the spear. This really do be some Looney Tunes-ass gameplay. All of the bosses also have unique executions too. It was always really interesting to see exactly what method of ridiculousness Jack will pull off this time with this boss. And speaking about the bosses, all of them are pretty fine for the most part. Nothing really too challenging. There's also this power struggle mechanic that will happen partway through every boss fight, along with the stronger enemies that appear through each level. Pulling these off will most certainly give you carpal tunnel. One of my gripes with MadWorld though is definitely its camera, which can make combat a little bit frustrating sometimes. You don't have complete control over the camera. You do have a lock-on system, but it works sometimes, other times it doesn't really work. The bloodbath challenges do need a special mention here though. Eventually, after a while of accumulating enough points in a stage, you'll unlock a mini-game challenge known as a bloodbath challenge. These are fantastic because every single time you come across a new one in a level, you'll always get this introductory explanation cutscene with the Black Baron telling you exactly what you need to do in order to do this BB challenge. And it always involves the Black Baron dying in the way that you need to kill the enemies in order to complete the challenge.
Oh yeah! No! No! Oh, what? Oh, hell no! Oh, hell no! Here goes my code!
I would explain MadWorld's gameplay of mindless video game junk food. There's really not a lot of depth here. You're pretty much just running around, beating up people. I should mention too that this game is best experienced in small bursts, as because there's not a lot to the game itself, it can get quite repetitive. The game never really tries to do anything different with itself. It's just, here's a playground, enjoy playing on it. There are 2 motorbike segments in the game where you are riding on a motorbike and you're also doing the same thing, hurting people. You get a little bit of control over the motorbike, but these really are just on-rail segments. However, MadWorld is a short experience, and I mean short. I wrapped the game up in 3.5 hours, but to be fair, I think that's more than enough time, although back in the day this game was marketed as a full price entry, which yeah, I feel like at that point you were kinda getting ripped off. The 3.5 hours that I got out of this game though, I was completely enthralled with absolute over-the-top ridiculousness. MadWorld isn't a must-play video game by any means, but what it is a hidden gem within Platinum Games' library. And it certainly serves for an interesting piece of the Wii's history, considering that most of the games that were on the Wii system certainly didn't look like this. If you want the scoop on another great hidden gem from Platinum Games, then you should definitely check out my World of Demons video. Though I might be blue-balling you a little bit with that one just because you can no longer play this game. Thank you guys so much for tuning into today's video. If you enjoyed this, please leave a like. I'm really enjoying doing these retrospective type review style of content. Subscribe to the channel to keep up with everything that's going on here. Check out my other social media platforms, and a big thank you to the Turkey-tastic patrons. I'm Cynical, hopefully having a fantastic day, and we'll talk real soon.